Hello and happy Friday, everybody. Today is November 12th, and today's episode, we're going to be looking at the national housing market a bit, also doing quite a bit of myth busting because there's a lot of headlines out there right now that are very misleading. So without further ado, I got a whole deck here that we're going to go through. These Fridays, usually the second Friday of every month takes a little bit longer because I have a little bit more content. So I'm just going to try to bust through it so you can get on with your day. But lots of important information today. As always, Brian McCarthy here at Story Residential with Compass. Let me know what your questions are when you have them. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let me go back to the beginning. All right, here we go. So November, checking out national housing market. Taking a look at showing time, which is kind of our national third party that us realtors use to schedule showing. So they have a really good pulse of the market and how much activity is going on right now. So I wanted to look back about 2-3 years here to just kind of show everyone, a lot of the headlines that we're hearing right now is that it's really, the market's totally slowing down. But this line here is the average of what it's been since January 2020, including the pandemic. And where we finished September is like right below the average of all these months. I think the average is what, honestly don't know what the number is, like how they, is this like showings per day per city or something like that, but it is an index. We finished at 175, which is right under the average of like 181. So really not bad at all. Index over the past 5 Septembers. If a lot of the stats that we look at, and I'm guilty of this as well, but we compare like right now to last year or this previous 12 months, the last 12 months of the previous 12 months. So this year, September showings, yeah, they do look a little bit lower than this time last year because we had a huge surge after, I won't say after the pandemic, but once things started opening back up of people looking to move and buy. So it was up at a huge clip. But if we compare the 3 years of Septembers leading up to the pandemic, which were relatively normal, we have an average right there at about like 109, 110, and we're still well above that by almost, 75% here at the end of September. So showings and people looking around to buy and moving at this time really has not slowed down. And I want to follow that up with a quote here from Bill McBride at Calculated List. So sales NSA, which is not seasonally adjusted in September of this year, were 2.7 below sales in September of last year, excluding last September, so 2020, distorted by the delayed selling season that I just mentioned. Sales not seasonally adjusted were the strongest since 2005. So for the past 15 years, they've been the strongest. Headlines today have been doing a lot more to terrify than clarify, and that's very true. I mean, if I feel like I'm guilty of it too, but a lot of people are just like, you look at the headlines, it pops up on your phone, probably don't take the time. I might read 1 in 10 articles that comes up on my phone, but if you're just going by the headlines, yeah, some stuff can look pretty scary, especially if you're looking at the housing market. So one that came out recently, less than a month ago in October on realtor.com, just look at the headline here. Foreclosures are shooting up. Is it a repeat of the housing crisis of the 2000s? Well, if you read a little bit into it or get to the facts, foreclosures are up almost 50% this time last year, but you have to take into account that this time last year, forbearance and all of these programs going on through through lenders to forgive people who couldn't pay were in place. No one was, well, I won't say no one, but the amount of foreclosures was down huge by more than a quarter from the previous August, which is kind of a national average year to year. which is pretty high, 28,000 a month in August. Went down hugely last year because of the forbearance and everything that was going on in the pandemic. But if you just compare those 2 months or just the 2 years, this year and last year, yeah, it does seem like it's up. But take everything into account. Let's look at a normal year like 2019 and really, take a step back and see that it's actually at about a third. And yes, there are foreclosures happening now that some of the forgiveness programs and moratoriums are ending, but just on an average, it's nothing like that. So we're not projected to see any sort of housing bubble or crash in the housing market anytime soon. Going to take another one from CNBC from October 18th. The headline here, check it out. Mortgage originations will drop by 33% in 2022 as interest rates rise, according to industry forecast. You look at that, you're like, wow, why would I buy if I'm on the fence? Nobody else is, especially if you're lemming. But look, if you go down to the key points, which are a much smaller font, I highlighted the two biggest ones here. Refinance origination. So people that already own their home that are looking to refinance are going to drop or are expected to drop 62% in 2022 to 860 billion. Well, that makes a lot of sense because, and I'll show another graph here in a little bit, but mortgage rates are and have been, and especially this time last year, were super low, historically low. This time last year, I refinanced. A lot of people that I know refinance because mortgage rates were like 2.6 for a 30-year. So yeah, naturally people are going to do that. Now that they've ticked back up, there's going to be a lot less of refinancing originations. But let's look at the other one. However, mortgage origination, so purchases for a new purchase, not a refinance, for the purpose of buying a home, are forecast to rise 9% to a record of $1.73 trillion in 2022. So if all you're doing is taking a look at the headlines, take all this stuff with a grain of salt, really look that, especially if all you're doing is reading the headlines. But if you're actually interested in the housing market, take time to read the articles, because a lot of times this is just like clickbait and not factually accurate. Rant almost over. University of Michigan did a consumer sentiment index in September, asking the average person, is it now a good time to buy a home? So we've seen the effect of what those headlines have done to people. I'd say, well, looking at this, 1 in 3 people say it's not or is a good time to buy a house. That's 2/3 people that don't think it is a good time to buy a house compared to September and February of last year, where it was up double. So kind of sad. Please share this with people if you think are talking about a housing market crash, because it's just it's not looking to be that way. All right, so let's look at the housing forecast nationally here for 2022. Doug Duncan, Senior VP, Chief Economist at Fannie Mae. Right now, we forecast mortgage rates to average 3.3% in 2022, which, though slightly higher than they are now and in 2020, by historical standards remains extremely low and supportive of mortgage demand and affordability. So, I hear people every once in a while saying, oh man, with, mortgage rates going up, there's going to be like this huge drop in home prices around the country. We're not really seeing that. And that's not what we're expecting. I mean, right now, I looked this morning, mortgage rates for a 30-year fixed are 3 1/8. So 3.125, which is slightly down over a couple of days ago, which was 3 1/4. So still very affordable. But if we look ahead over the next bit here and into 2022, Freddie Mac kind of tracked these mortgage rates. All right, well, let's go back a little bit from 2018. You can see that they are historically low. They had a huge dip this time last year where I said they're, a little over 2.5. They are trending up a little bit right now. And we're looking at estimating where they're going here in Q1, Q2, and Q3 of next year, ticking up slightly by a tenth of a point. Still very affordable though, if you look over the past couple of years here. home price forecast. This is the average of 6 major players in the housing market. A bunch of lenders, the Mortgage Brokers Association, Zelman, National Association of Realtors, where they take an average, and what it shows is 5.1 is the average of the forecast of home appreciation over the next year or through 2022. So everyone agrees that home prices are going to continue to appreciate. So if you are thinking about buying right now, really take advantage of the lower rates that you have right now and the appreciation that you would get over the next year, because you buy something for 500,000, even in a stagnant market, just because of inflation and the average appreciation that's going to happen in the country, you're going to make a significant amount of equity on your home. And you think about it, like, who buys a house to live there and own it for a year? I mean, most people live there for at least 7 years. So if you take this average, which is going to be pretty good over the following years, and I actually talked about that in last month's national housing market, where we looked at graphs that went beyond 2022, it's going to be a really good equity position for you and a really good investment buying a home. All right, so sales forecast to increase this year, will perform well again in 2022. So this is for the major players, estimating sales forecasts here. 2021 into 2022. And 2022, the average homes, 6.5 million homes sold. Looking to increase that even more into next year, especially the Mortgage Brokers Association is really expecting that to rise a lot. Another quote for you: 2022 should be another strong year for the housing market. This is Chief Economist and Senior VP for the Research and Industry Technology for the Mortgage Brokers Association. All right, so wanted to share this slide with you guys. This is shifting a little bit here, kind of looking at what's happened to the average homeowner in the past year. This probably looks pretty familiar to a lot of people. A home office, either, maybe in your living room or your spare bedroom, place you probably spent a lot of time in the past year or 18 months. Don Layton at Harvard University said homeownership is regarded as causing, my tab is in the way here, causing improvement in the quality of life of the typical family. Is the most common method for such a family to build wealth that can be used for retirement or other needs, including helping the next generation. Such wealth creation therefore provides a major social as well as economic benefit. Couldn't agree more. Owning a house is great. Often the biggest asset that people own, and everything we've seen so far and over the past couple of years is that it appreciates. So I always like to make a good a bet on something that is an investment, right? Some quick stats here from Unison's State of the American Homeowner. They do a lot of surveys. 64% of American homeowners say that living through the pandemic has made their home more important to them than ever. I've known a lot of people that have decided to move, or what I should say is move out of their rental and buy something, or even out of, a house that wasn't quite working for them, that they were making work, and then buy something even better, which is why, 2/3 of Americans say that they made a great decision and bought a home here during the pandemic, or made their home the pandemic made their home very important to them. 83% of homeowners say that the home has kept them safe during the pandemic. Can't argue with that. 91% of homeowners say they feel secure and stable and successful owning their home. 9 out of 10 people, more than 9 out of 10 people are happy with that. Homeowners who feel emotionally attached to their home pre-pandemic, slightly over half, now over 70%. It's a feel-good stat there. And just to wrap this up, guys, right now I have fall sellers guides, buyers and seller guides for free, completely no strings attached. You don't even have to enter your info to download it. They are packed with really good info. I sent out an email yesterday with some links. If you didn't get it, let me know. Otherwise, you can find a link to both of these in this website at the top tab here. So if you are thinking about moving or just curious about the process, buying or selling a home, check out these guides. They're packed full of stats, tips, ideas, and infographics, and just, step-by-step guides of what goes into buying and selling a home. The seller's guide is really nice too. It has a lot of details there about what you can expect in the process, especially in today's market. We're updating those to have a winter edition that should be out the first week, if not definitely by the second week of December. What you can expect buying or selling a home during the winter months, and what you can do to prepare your home for sale. Some good ideas for what's a good, renovation project and if it's going to be worth it. But as always, if you have any questions about these things, contact your local realtor. I'm always here to help you guys out personally. Call, email, text, DM me, whatever you got to do. I'm here to help, guys. Thank you so much for being with me. I hope you found this useful, and look forward to talking to you guys next week. Have a great weekend and take care. Bye.